fragile trust. The shuttle's descent through Navoria's atmosphere scattered prismatic light across Talon Ryder's face. After 3 decades of isolation, the crystalline world had finally extended an invitation, one fragile chance for humanity, to establish diplomatic relations with the most technologically advanced species in the quadrant. "Approach vector accepted," came the melodic voice through the comms. "Welcome, Earth emissary." Talon adjusted his formal diplomatic attire, a blend of terrestrial design and subtle nods to what little was known of Navorian aesthetics. "Remember," his mission director had warned, "one misstep could end this before it begins." The landing platform materialized beneath them, a flawless disk of opalescent crystal that seemed to float above a landscape of towering, faceted spires. As the shuttle settled, Talon noted the absence of any welcoming committee. Only a single figure stood waiting, shrouded in flowing robes that shimmered between teal and violet with each subtle movement. When the hatch opened, the alien air carried the scent of something like cinnamon and electricity. Talon stepped forward, maintaining the precise 7-step distance specified in the diplomatic briefing. "I am Talon Ryder, representing the United Earth Alliance," he said, performing the formal bow that had been described in the sparse cultural briefs. "I bring greetings and hopes for mutual understanding." The figure lowered its hood, revealing a face that stopped Talon's breath. Her features were almost human, yet subtly alien skin like polished amber with faint luminescent patterns. Beneath, eyes of deep indigo with no visible pupils, and hair that resembled flowing liquid copper. "I am Guardian Selene, voice of the Navorian conclave," she responded, her words precise yet musical. "You stand now in the approach chamber. Come no closer than the 7th crystal marking." Talon nodded, noting the inlaid pattern on the floor. "Between them, I understand and respect your traditions." "Many do not," she replied, studying him with unnerving intensity. "The distance between us is sacred. It is the space where truth can exist uncorrupted by ... proximity." There was something in her voice, a subtle inflection that caught Talon's attention. As a diplomat, he'd been trained to hear what wasn't being said. "Your world is beautiful," he offered, gesturing to the crystalline landscape visible through the chamber's transparent walls. "We have nothing like this on Earth." For a moment, Selene's formal demeanor softened. "The crystal forests sing at dawn, perhaps. You will hear them during your stay. I would like that." The moment passed, and her expression became impassive once more. "The conclave awaits your formal presentation. Follow the illuminated path, but remain behind the 7th marker at all times." As they walked through corridors of living crystal, Talon observed how other Navorians moved with precise distances between them, never touching, always maintaining that same careful space. "Your people," he ventured carefully, "have they always maintained such ... formal distances?" Selene's step faltered almost imperceptibly. "Since the severance, yes. Contact brings ... complications." "Complications?" She turned, her indigo eyes meeting his with unexpected intensity. "Emissary Ryder, there are reasons we have remained isolated. The distance between us is not merely tradition, it is survival." "For whom?" Talon asked softly. Selene didn't answer, but in the refracted light of the crystal corridor, Talon could have sworn he saw longing flicker across her features, quickly suppressed, but unmistakable. "The treaty terms are simple," she continued, changing the subject. "Technology exchange for territorial recognition. But the conclave will test your understanding of our ways before proceeding." "And if I fail?" Selene paused before a massive door etched with ancient symbols. "Then you return to your people, and the distance between our worlds remains." As the doors began to open, she added in a whisper, so faint he barely caught it, "And some distances, once established, can never be bridged again." Shattered protocol, the Navorian conclave. chamber resembled the inside of a massive geode walls of amethyst, crystal stretching upward to a dome that captured starlight and scattered it across the assembled dignitaries. 7 Navorian elders sat upon crystalline pedestals arranged in a perfect heptagon, their amber faces impassive as they studied the human visitor. 2 standard weeks had passed since Thailand's arrival, and negotiations had progressed at a glacial pace. Every proposal met with the same response: "We will contemplate this matter through a cycle of reflection." "Your patience wears thin, emissary rider," observed Elder Thorn, the eldest of the conclave, whose skin had faded to pale topaz with age. "Humans move quickly, but Navorians have existed for millennia. We do not rush toward ... entanglements." Talon bowed precisely to the 7th marker. "With respect, Elder, while we contemplate, the Zenith Collective expands their military presence along your outer territories. My government believes an alliance would benefit both our peoples." A murmur rippled through the chamber, the closest thing to discord he'd witnessed among the Navorians. "This session is concluded," announced Elder Thorn. "Guardian Selene will escort you to your quarters." As they walked the luminous corridors, Talon noticed Selene's unusual silence. Her typical diplomatic formality had given way to something tense, almost distracted. "The elders fear change," Talon ventured. "But the galaxy won't wait for cycles of reflection." Selene glanced back, checking that they were alone. "Meet me at the eastern observation deck when the 3rd moon rises," she whispered. "There are things you must understand." Before he could respond, she increased her pace, leaving him at the entrance to his quarters. Later, as the 3rd moon, a small green orb, climbed above the crystal forests, Talon made his way through deserted corridors. The observation deck hung suspended over a vast canyon where crystal formations created natural music as wind passed through them. A haunting, beautiful melody. Selene stood near the edge, her copper hair unbound and flowing like liquid metal. In the moonlight, without her formal robes, dressed in a simple tunic of shifting blue fabric, she looked younger, less guarded. "You risk much coming here," Talon said, maintaining the proper distance. "What I risk by not speaking is greater." Selene gestured to the 7th marker on the floor between them. "Do you know why we maintain this distance, emissary?" "Your briefings mentioned religious tradition, biological necessity." "Lies," she said, her voice suddenly fierce. "Comfortable lies we've told ourselves for generations." She moved to a control panel and activated a hidden view screen. Ancient images flickered to life. Navorians, standing close together, touching hands, embracing. "Before the severance, we were not so different from humans," she explained. "Then came the resonance plague. Thousands died when their crystalline neural patterns synchronized with the infected. The elders determined that proximity allowed the plague to spread, so they enacted the distance laws." "But the plague is gone now?" Selene's eyes reflected the moonlight like polished gems. "For 9 centuries. Yet the laws remain because they serve another purpose: control. When people cannot touch, cannot truly connect, they're easier to govern." "And if the laws are broken?" Talon asked. "Exile to the outer territories, or worse." Her voice trembled slightly. "But there's more. The distance laws have changed us physiologically. Our neural patterns now form deeper, more intense connections. When proximity barriers are broken, a simple touch between Navorians can create a telepathic bond that the conclave cannot monitor or control." Talon took an unconscious step forward. "And between a Navorian and a human?" "Unknown," she whispered. "No such contact has been recorded." Her eyes lifted to his, filled with something between fear and wonder. "But I have dreams, Taelon. Dreams of what it might be like too." A sharp tone cut through the air. Selene stepped back quickly as a communication panel lit up. "Guardian Selene," came Elder Thorn's voice. Your presence is required in the protocol chamber immediately. Acknowledged, she responded, her formal demeanor returning instantly. As she turned to leave, she whispered, "The crystal gardens at dawn. There's something I must show you." When she was gone, Talon stood alone on the observation deck, listening to the crystal song rising from the canyon below. What had begun as a diplomatic mission was evolving into something far more complex and dangerous. The space between them, those carefully measured 7 steps, suddenly seemed both an impossible distance and a protection he wasn't certain he wanted. In his quarters that night, Talon received an encrypted transmission from Earth Command. Zenith. Collective fleet movements detected near Navorian space. Accelerate negotiations by any means necessary. Alliance must be secured within 7 standard days. As the first light of dawn filtered through the crystal spires, casting rainbow patterns across his room, Talon made his decision. Some boundaries were worth crossing, even at the risk of everything he had sworn to uphold. Crystalline hearts. The crystal gardens sprawled beneath the twin rising suns, a labyrinth of living formations that hummed with subtle resonance. Talon followed the path Selene had described in her hurried instructions, each step taking him deeper into a maze where refracted light played tricks on his perception. At the garden's heart stood an ancient structure unlike the elegant modern architecture of the city. Rough-hewn crystal columns surrounding a circular platform inscribed with spiraling patterns. Selene waited there, her copper hair braided tightly, wearing what appeared to be ceremonial attire of deep indigo. "You came," she said, relief evident in her voice. "Your invitation was difficult to resist," Talon replied, stopping at the customary 7th marking. "Though I suspect this meeting violates several protocols. All of them, actually." A ghost of a smile crossed her face. "This place is called the Resonance Nexus. It predates the severance by millennia. Our ancestors used it for something the modern conclave considers dangerous communal bonding." Talon studied the intricate patterns beneath their feet. "You're risking exile by bringing me here. I'm risking more than that." Selene activated a small device that projected a holographic display. "These are the true terms the conclave intends to offer Earth. Limited technology exchange in return for human military protection against the Zenith Collective, while maintaining complete isolation. They never intended genuine alliance." The revelation wasn't entirely surprising. "And you're showing me this because I believe isolation has weakened us. Because the Zenith Collective will not stop with our outer territories." Her indigo eyes blazed with intensity. "And because I've accessed your encrypted communications." 7 days isn't enough time for traditional negotiations? Talon tensed. "Those communications are classified, as is my presence in the archives, where I discovered the truth about the resonance plague." She stepped closer to the boundary between them. "The plague wasn't what we were told. It was weaponized by a faction of the Conclave to justify the distance laws, to prevent the formation of the neural bonds that allowed our people to share thoughts, emotions, truth." A distant alarm suddenly pierced the morning air. Selene's expression shifted to alarm. "They've discovered my access to the archives," she said. "We don't have much time." Before Talon could respond, the garden's entrance filled with armored figures, the Navorian Security Collective, led by Commander Varric, the stern-faced head of planetary defense, whom Talon had met only briefly during initial briefings. "Guardian Selene," Varric called out, "you are charged with protocol violation and unauthorized information sharing." "Step away from the human." Selene stood her ground. "The Conclave lies, Varric. The distance laws are control mechanisms, not protection. That is not for you to determine." Varric raised a crystalline weapon. "Step away now." What happened next occurred with devastating speed. One of Varric's subordinates fired a warning shot that struck a crystal formation near the platform. The formation shattered, sending crystalline shards flying. Talon instinctively moved to shield Selene, and in that moment crossed the seventh marker. A shard struck him in the chest, penetrating deeply. Pain exploded through his body as he collapsed. Through a haze of agony, he heard Selene's cry of anguish. No, she rushed forward, breaking the final boundary between them. When her hands touched his wound, the world transformed. A surge of energy flowed between them, not electricity, but something more fundamental, as though their consciousness momentarily merged. Talon gasped as images flooded his mind. Selene's memories, her emotions, fragments of her life experience cascading through his awareness. The crystal, embedded in his chest, began to glow with amber light, the same luminescence that patterned Selene's skin. The pain subsided as the wound started to close. "Impossible," whispered Varric, lowering his weapon in shock. Selene's hands trembled against Talon's chest, her eyes wide with wonder and fear. "The resonance bond," she murmured. "It's happening even between different species." As Talon struggled to his feet, supported by Selene, he felt a lingering connection, a whisper of her thoughts at the edges of his consciousness. "You've broken the highest law," Varric said grimly. "Guardian Selene, you are hereby stripped of your title and marked for judgment by the Conclave." "And the human?" asked one of the security officers. Varric's expression hardened. "Detain him. The Conclave will decide whether this contamination can be reversed, or if more permanent measures are required." As they were separated and led away, Talon caught Selene's gaze one last time. In that brief connection, he felt rather than heard. Her thought, "What has begun between us cannot be undone. The bond remains. Find me in the dreams between in the holding cell where they placed him." Talon pressed his hand to his chest where the wound had been. Only a faint scar remained, glowing with the same subtle patterns that marked Selene's skin. Something fundamental had changed, not just in his body, but in his understanding of what connection truly meant. Outside his cell window, he could see Navorian ships mobilizing as reports came in of Zenith collective vessels entering the outer system. Time was running out for both their worlds.